Dashboards are a really visual tool, a really visual way of viewing your data in real time across all of your jobs. So not just looking kind of job by job, we can take the elevated level and see how your shop is performing over the course of any kind of date range. We can use it to identify patterns and bottlenecks. So by looking at this data and delving into this data in a very visual way, it's easy to see these things, react to it, and do something about it. We have drill down capabilities, so we're going to be able to, if something looks strange, we want to investigate something a little bit further, we can delve through the layers or dig deeper into the layers of the data and get that real valuable insight that we've perhaps up until this stage not had the opportunity to see. The dashboards are very customizable, so you'll see it in a short while when I do the presentation, but we're able to tweak the different dashboards to give you the information that you need to make the decisions that you need to make. And finally, it's only accessible to the relevant people. So we're not exposing dashboards to everyone within the business. We can use it, we can keep this just to the eyes of the people who need to see it. So it's customizable in terms of who can access it as well. So with all that being said, I'm going to go into Tech3PM Go, and to access dashboards, I go to the menu up at the top left, and there's a dashboard option. Now this does need to be enabled from the user administration area of Tech3PM for the appropriate users, but once that's been turned on, you can click on dashboards and you'll start to see some charts, which is a good start. Before I delve too deep, part of the 2021 release, there are two dashboards. The first being production, which is your piece tracking data. So as work is marked as complete at each station through the workshop and potentially out at site, that information is collated and available inside the production dashboard. The shipping dashboard is based on your load tracking. So this is as you're building loads and shipping them out to site and subcontracts, etc. That can be reported on from within here. But I want to start on the production dashboard, and straight away we can see there's three charts per dashboard, and at the moment we're simply just looking at the weight that's been output. Firstly on the timeline, so at the moment we've got a date filter set for January by the looks of it, and we're seeing kind of per week in January what my weight output was from my workshop. I can see that by job as well. So over that month time frame, I worked on 3 separate jobs in this instance, and again what my output is per station across that time frame as well. So cutting versus fabrication versus inspection, for argument's sake. Now that's a good start, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my date range. Now we do have some preset date filters, so I can easily look at what I've done this week versus last week versus this month, so on and so forth. But you can also set the date range manually, and that's what I'm going to do using the calendar. I'm going to go all the way back to the 1st of October through to the end of January this year. And I'm going to view that by week. You can opt to view it by month, year, or day. Month, obviously a 4-month period. We're seeing the 4 monthly groups there. Day, perhaps a little bit overkill for a 4-month period, and year as well, which isn't really relevant. But over the 4 months from the start of October to the end of January, I'm going to view that by week. And straight away we can start to see kind of patterns emerging as peaks and troughs as kind of time progresses. What I've been able to output, my maximum output this week was just shy of 140 tons. My lowest output down here was only 19 tons as I started to use the software. And again, we're looking at weight in this instance. But what I can do, I can use my my little dataset icon here to come and turn on some more data units. Now you can only have 3 at a time. We think that would be plenty for the time being. and I'm going to turn on weight as well as my hours. Now, if you're currently using hours, then brilliant inside Tekla EPM. If you're not, this might be an incentive to start. I don't know. I'm also going to turn on my hours per weight as well, so hours per ton effectively. And if you're a production manager or a general manager of a steel fabricator, you might start to see this data that you've never had access to before, and a really, really powerful tool to be able to visualize this and be able to delve deeper, spot patterns, identify bottlenecks, and so on and so forth. So over the course of that 4-month period, we're looking at not only now the weight that we've output over that time frame, but also the hours that have been recorded per week. And this purple line is representing the productivity in terms of hours per ton, man hours per ton. So at the very start, we were kind of averaging 2.5 man hours a ton, as probably some of the data was a little bit dubious that was being put into the system. And you'll see that how that ebbs and flows all the way up to the peak, kind of just shy of 11 man hours a ton, and it kind of, I guess, averages around the 6-7 man hours a ton if you look across that there. And again, that's based on a time frame, so I can start to see patterns emerging there. I can also view that on a job by job kind of scenario. So over those 4 months, I've worked on 7 jobs. The most efficient job, if you will, was down at 3.5 man hours a ton, and I guess the most labour intensive job was this J2027, which had an average of just shy of 8 man hours a ton. Again, this data isn't necessarily accurate, but it's showing the patterns that you guys will be able to see when using these dashboards. Now, dashboards are designed to be interactive. They're designed to be able to drill down through the different levels of data, and this is effectively our top level, if you will. And what we're able to do is drill down by clicking on any of these areas. I might toggle that to be a bar chart now so we can see it a bit clearer. But if I want to kind of delve into a particular job, I can just simply click on a job there, and that's going to drill me down into just looking purely at job 2027 here. The charts remain the same. This one here, which was showing job, is now gone to lot. I might view that by sequence or phase. In this case, there's only 2 sequences, so I'm actually going to go back to lot there. And you can see again over the course of that job how the output has changed. My productivity has changed depending on the content and the I guess who's working on that particular job. And again, stations here, it's no surprise to see that fabrication is my highest, as my highest hours per ton through that. So that's delving down into job. I can do the same for stations. If I want to look at, for example, the fabrication station, let's be honest, that's the one we're predominantly interested in. We're now looking purely at the fabrication station, and we're starting to see now, so station completed by, so I can compare the performance of my 4 fabricators. I've got 4 there, and let's looking at this, they're all pretty equal. The most efficient is here with just over 4 man hours a ton. The least efficient is just over 5 man hours a ton. But being able to compare the performance of your fabricators is again really valuable, and gives you an insight that allows you to make informed decisions better and quicker. Whilst I'm here, I'm going to show you a few of the customization options that are going to be really beneficial over the kind of the usage of the dashboards. So I kind of touched on it briefly earlier, but any of these charts we can change what I guess what metric we look at. So at the moment this one's set to job, but if I toggle this, for example, to drawing description, I can start, I'll make that a little bit bigger as well. There we go. I can start to see kind of all the different types of elements that I have I've processed, and I can see that by far the least efficient is these loose angles here, whereas columns and beams is my, I guess, my bread and butter of what I've output the most. But these, yes, these the ability to change these, maybe if I go to, I don't know, secondary group name, which I use to classify the industries I work in, or the different sectors that I've worked in, so I can see that over the course of that 4-month period, my most efficient sector for fabrication is the education, whereas residential is the most, I guess, labor intensive, and that might change how I target work. It might change how I set my workshop up. I might change my practices to be more efficient for certain types of work. But again, it's giving that information to make those informed decisions. A little bit more on the customizations. I've already shown you how we can toggle between a pie and a bar. It's actually a donut chart and a bar. So some information is better viewed as a donut, or some information is better viewed as a bar chart. We can also start stacking these options as well. So maybe on this one here, if I make this a bit wider, I can stack this by job number, so I can see that these are the jobs that each of these individuals have worked on. So I'm not only viewing the outputs, but I'm viewing kind of the breakdown by job, and maybe this would identify why one fabricator was more effective or more efficient than another. Again, giving you that level of detail that allows you to drill down. Whilst I've got this, I just want to show you the ability to export this information to Excel. Obviously, lots of people like the ability to dump information into Excel so it can be manipulated, and we've allowed that functionality in here. So if I was just to use the export button here to Microsoft Excel, that's going to create essentially a data drop, and that data is now in Excel for me to do whatever I please with. Okay, I'll quickly touch on the shipping database, the shipping dashboard, and it's got exactly the same tools. It mainly works by weight. There's a couple of other options in there, but it's largely going to be beneficial to view by weight. But we've got all the same options in here to be able to customize this screen as well. We're really excited about this functionality. It's going to be really interesting to have the users start to use it and feedback kind of how it works well for them. And before I just jump back to the slides, just very briefly, I said I would show you how to turn this on, and it's important for you to know because otherwise we'll get lots of support calls as to the features missing. So back in EPM itself, if we come to File and Administration, go into a particular user, so I'll just choose my user there and go to remote permissions, and you'll see there's two new options in the dashboard there, one for production and one for shipping, and as one of those is enabled, then you'll be able to access that dashboard area. Okay, sorry that was a bit rushed, but hopefully you've got a good insight there, and I'll just jump back to my slides very quickly. So just to recap some of the things we've just seen there, we're allowing you to make better decisions. You can visualize your data, you can customize that data in any way to get the information that you need, which gives you the opportunity to spot any issues a lot easier and earlier and correct them in a timely fashion. The information is always accessible and always live. Because we're using EPM Go, you can access these dashboards from anywhere in the world, from any internet device. So you don't have to be in your shop to be able to see this data. And as I say, it's always live. It's always going to be up to date every time someone is progressing something in the workshop or beyond. And we're no longer relying on reports. So I'm sure there's lots of people out there who compile this type of data in Excel or in various other reports, pulling different reports out of EPM. We're no longer relying on that, saving time and getting much more accurate data much easier.